Tana was going to go to VidCon and make her return after the tragedy that was TanaCon, and they were talking about her birthday a ton. Like, that was the main point of the first couple of episodes, and now they've done a complete 360, and now, with this 4th episode, they've skipped ahead a bunch of weeks to, like, recently, to, like, probably 3 weeks ago, when Tana got that billboard for her birthday where she's, like, naked. I don't know. Suddenly, it's after her birthday in Vegas, so the show's titled Tana Turns 21, and they skipped part of her birthday party. They skipped her literal actual birthday. Like, the day she turned 21, they skipped all of that. They skipped over it. And now they're talking about Jake and Tana's wedding, okay? And this, I think this show gives some real insight to, like, the truth of the situation. I almost feel like Tana and Jake don't understand that people can see every aspect of the internet. So people watching Jake's vlogs know that Tana and Jake are just like, oh, it's just for clout. People who are on Tana's Twitter can also see her being like,
this is the love of my life. I will never get married again after Jake. We are soulmates. We are going to be together forever. We are the love of each other's lives, and I can't live my life without him.
And people also see this, the MTV show, where she openly admits, there's the funniest part in here, and this was the part when it happened, and I was like, I'm gonna make a video. There is a clip in this video, Tana Turns 21. It was right after she got engaged, and her manager, who honestly seems like the only voice of reason in her life, was like, hey, you're lying to everyone. He was basically like, do you think people are going to get pissed? And she was like, why would they get pissed? And he said, because you're lying to everyone. And they were like in a car driving, supposed to be having this casual conversation. Tana found the camera in the car, looked it dead in the eyes, and she was like, we're not lying. Why would you say that? Like, you could just tell she knew that wasn't supposed to be on camera. It was almost like she was mad at him for saying something like that on camera, because you know that definitely was not the narrative they were trying to spin. What we found out from this episode is they've planned like 3 weddings and just haven't gone through with them. This is the wedding that finally went through, but they've been planning this. The whole thing where she was like, oh my God, Jake proposed. She knew weeks before that was gonna happen that Jake was gonna propose to her. This whole thing, they were gonna get married before that. Like, they talked about this ceremony. This whole thing has been a plan. And then the only reason they extended the wedding to be like a month is because they thought they could milk so much PR out of getting married. And you know what is so sad? It worked. It worked. They have been all over my timeline. They have been all over, like, the Snapchat where you can, like, swipe over and it's, like, magazines? They're the front of all of those. They're all I see on BuzzFeed. Like, it worked. They successfully did marriage for clout. Like, somehow, some way, they did marriage for clout. And I think it's just so interesting. I think, to me, like, objectively, getting married for clout, I think it's wrong, and I wouldn't do it, and I think it's kind of weird, but, like, there's nothing, like, wrong with that per se, but I think this whole idea of, like, trying to bamboozle your subscribers into thinking you're soulmates and you're so in love just for the sake of, like, clout, like, they're basically just lying to everyone, because some people genuinely believe this. Like, I'll see comments where it's like, I think Tana's really falling in love with Jake, but I think Jake just doesn't care about her. Like, Tana's not in on this whole thing. Like, she's very obviously in on everything. She's just a good liar. And honestly, Jake's not a very good liar, which is why I think he's the only one that's been like, yeah, this is 100% for clout. 100% for clout. Like, I just can't so, like, getting married for clout, objectively not the worst thing a person could do. Is trying to trick your fans and bamboozle them, getting them to buy Jana merch, because I guarantee there's going to be wedding merch, mark my words. Like, all of this type of stuff, doing all of this, trying to profit off of this and trying to take money from your subscribers because you just love each other so much, buy your merch to support our relationship. Like, that, I think, is the part that I disagree with. I also think at the end of the day, this sucks that it's so public, because I think YouTubers in general get a pretty bad rap for how they are, and it's because of people like Tana Mojo and Jake Paul that YouTube will never be taken seriously. It's stuff like this. People see YouTubers faking their wedding for clout, and they just take YouTube even less seriously because, like, they are representatives of YouTube whether we like it or not. I think the other thing too, like the other just like little piece of this is, and this I might be reaching, and you could definitely call me on it if you think I'm reaching, but I do think that promoting the idea that marriage is just kind of something silly and something you could just do for fun because you're like friends with someone and you just want to have fun and you want to get married, I do think that's a bit irresponsible. I know it's a lot irresponsible actually, because like it can end up in a really expensive, because divorces and annulments are not cheap, expensive and kind of like weird place. I think and the thing is though, is like, to call out that and to say that it's a bad example for their audience, because I think it is, but to call that out, you have to also say that like David Dobrik marrying Jason Nash's mom is a bad example that marriage should be taken more seriously. You know what I mean? Like you can't call them out without calling out all the other YouTubers who have gone to Vegas, and Al Mills did it. Like people do this on YouTube, but I think why this one seems so different is because they're partially trying to actually convince people that maybe it is because they like each other. And there's no transparency that it's a joke. There's no transparency that it's all for clout. There's like cloudiness. Like we all kind of know it's all for clout, and we all kind of assume it's all, I hate the word clout. We all kind of assume it's for attention. We all kind of assume it's for money. But like there's also this like haziness in the air that makes it not transparent because they're also trying to convince us that they're in love. I don't know. This whole situation is insane. If you're like me and you've kept up on it, let me know what you think about it down below. If you're not like me and I just filled you in, let me know what you think of it down below. I'm going insane and I never want to watch another Tina Mojo video again, but I probably will, because like I said, like this is she's one person, Jake Paul knows so much, but Tina Mojo is a person I'm fascinated by, because as somebody who studies like human behavior, I just find her fascinating. Like she's so interesting. She's an interesting person to watch. The way she does things, the public reaction to what she does is very, very, very interesting. I could make a whole video about this, but I think Tana and her channel are very interesting to me. But anyway, that's it for me. I hope you guys liked this video. I'm sorry if it was ranty, but I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, please like and subscribe, or just subscribe, or do neither. Honestly, just so happy you're watching me. Thank you so much for being here. My merch, my social
I think we all know about U-Haul. If you're moving or for some reason need to move some big stuff, you can rent a truck or a van from them and it'll allow you to do it. It's a huge company worth billions of dollars on the stock market and approaching $4 billion in revenue each year. The company is actually called Americo. To a lesser extent, they deal with storage facilities and property and life insurance, but we all know them for their U-Haul trucks. I don't know how interesting that sounds either, but you're going to have to trust me on this one. Holy cow, we have scandals, lawsuits, expulsion, death, murder. It all centers around this guy named L.S. Schoen. His father was a farmer who lost his land during the Great Depression, so he was forced to find odd jobs to pay for college, one of which was butchering cows, another was cutting hair. He made it to medical school, and 1 year before graduation, he was expelled. The reason was for covering for a friend who didn't show up that day, which to me sounds like an excessive punishment, but maybe it was a 3-strike type situation. But either way, he was kicked out of medical school. From there, he entered the Navy. It was toward the end of World War II, but he had various illnesses and was discharged before ever seeing any action. That's where U-Haul enters the picture. He and his wife needed to drive home about 1,000 miles from his military base, and they had trouble finding a trailer they could use to bring all their stuff. Along that drive, the two of them had the idea of starting a trailer rental business, one where you could rent one in one place and return it in another. When they returned, they took their life savings, which was about $5,000, and used it to either buy or build trailers and hand paint them that signature orange color. And I have to give them credit for using that bright orange on everything. What a quick and easy way just to stand out. I know that initial $5,000 may not sound like much, but keep in mind that their first trailers were rented for $2 a day. They would make them available by working with various gas stations and repair shops across the country, providing them with trailers to rent to people and giving them a commission for doing it. Not surprisingly, it was a big success. Firsthand, they saw this demand that was going unfilled and took advantage of the opportunity. I admire them for it. We all have those moments where we come up with an idea to improve something or make a task easier. You know, they should really make a mop where the handle pulls I don't know, I don't have any right now, but we never followed through. I couldn't think of any of my own right there because they're out of my mind 10 minutes later, but these two did something about it, and that should be respected. In the following years, the economy was great, more roads were being constructed, everyone was moving out to the suburbs, and that's good news for a company like U-Haul. Now, during all of this, LS and his wife Anna Mary had 6 kids, all of which were completely involved in the business from a ridiculously early age. The plan was to teach them everything about it so they'd become experts and be fully prepared to run it when it's eventually passed down to them. Well, in 1957, at age 34, their mother, Anna Mary, died of a heart issue. U-Haul was an even partnership between her and her husband, meaning she owned 50% of it, and she left that 50% to be split between her 6 kids. 1 year after his first wife's death, LS married his second wife named Suzanne, and together they had another 5 kids. That's all getting hard to keep track of, and trust me, it just gets worse. But for now, back to the business. It was having trouble in the early 70s. For one, the competition was closing in. As I said, demand for this sort of thing had just grown, and U-Haul was the main business to benefit from it, but you can only expect to go effectively unrivaled for so long. Ryder, who eventually became their biggest competitor, had just entered the industry in 1968 and was on their way up, but a much more immediate issue was the oil crisis. In the early 1970s, the oil supply was very low, which made gas